In this video, I'll talk about intellectual property. Technicians often refer to intellectual property as IP, not to be confused with Internet Protocol. IP is a type of data. At the industrial level, it would include things like trade secrets, patents, and trademarks. At the artistic level, it relates to copyrights. Some examples of intellectual property would include things like secret ingredients or recipes, or music. Paintings also fall under intellectual property and would be subject to copyright law, just like music would. Scientific research and the results thereof are also considered intellectual property, as are specific industrial processes used by certain organizations. For example, in the manufacturing process, these are the types of things that we would want to keep secret to remain competitive. Now, there might be some intellectual property ownership issues. Consider the example of university research data created through government funding that finds some kind of important medical result. Who owns that intellectual property? The university, the researchers, or the government that funded the research? DRM stands for Digital Rights Management, and this is another aspect of protecting intellectual property. It prevents things like piracy. If you think back in the days of software being distributed on floppy disks, vendors back then would use methods such as writing the files to those floppy disks in non standard ways, and that was their form of copyright protection at the time. Another example would be things like digital watermarks on images or videos to prevent piracy, such as movie screenings. Software and gaming digital rights management often these days checks in with an internet server first before commencing or granting access to the software, or in the case of gaming, before the game will begin. An example of this would include Microsoft Product Activation, where if we were to install, for example, a Windows operating system, then we would have to make sure it gets registered with Microsoft's activation servers before we can fully use that operating system and receives updates. In this video, we talked about intellectual property.